Here we go.
And it is showtime. We are live yet again. It is always funny when you hit the go button and you have to wait for 5 seconds for it to actually start, because then you're stuck there looking like, okay, now we go. All right. All right. So this is the Author's Dilemma show. We have been on hiatus for the past, I don't know, 3 months, maybe 2 months, 2 months at least.
Yeah.
Holidays,
Yeah.
before the holidays. And, we changed some things up and we're moving forward and we will get into that. But first, I am J.E. Jack. I write paranormal thrillers and urban fantasy.
I'm Jennifer Carr, and I write Christian romantic suspense and clean contemporary romance.
And we have a lot to talk about today because we haven't
do.
talked in a long time. We were going to talk about TikTok, but now that's not an issue anymore. So
It's back.
Yeah. It was gone. Now it's back. And
just like
I think, just like us. We'll see what happens in a week.
That's right.
So the thing with TikTok, and I know we're going to go back to our original. Actually, let's go ahead and we'll get to TikTok eventually. We'll get to that in the news portion. First, we're going to talk about our business because, like, a lot of things have happened in the past two months. And then we'll talk about the news, and then we'll talk about the future of the show, and then we'll answer any questions that you may have. Because, like I said, this is a surprise, and we're just happy to be back and to share this time with you. All right, so.
For sure.
What's going on in your business, Jen?
Well, so I do have a book coming out March 4th. Pretty excited about it.
Oh my gosh, let me love you.
Yes, it is the third book of my Real American Country series. And so that literally went out to ARC readers on the 15th. Mm-hmm. So they have about a month to read it and really fall in love with it. I will say that my editor was a little delayed getting it back to me. And so they're all dealing with ebooks, which is fine, but I always send out like PR boxes with my art for my ARC team. And so that's been delayed, which worked out because once I got it back from the editor, there were some things that needed more editing.
Right.
I had an ARC reader send me like 7 corrections. She was like, "Are you sure a bush crept up her cheeks and not a blush?" And I was like, I know, it was so embarrassing. I was like, okay, so
that was my alter ego. I was writing another book for another genre.
How does that even happen? It's been read so many times. So anyway, so I have my PR boxes going out in a couple of weeks, and so that's exciting. And I've got the next book is written and ready to go to the editor, so that's exciting.
So you published you released a book in October 15th.
I did.
It was
something like that. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so here we are, November. Yeah. So 3 months. No, not even. November, December, January. Yeah. So
and it goes to in March. It'll be out in March. Yeah. So.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
But all of my books. So that's the thing, though. Like when I started, because it's a series, I just kept writing. Right. As soon as the first book was done, I kept writing, and so I have 5.5 books of the series. 6 will be the last one. And the series will be done. And so then I can push them out when I can afford an editor, at the time. That's when she'll edit, and then we'll go from there. So hopefully my aim is March of this year and October again of this year, but we'll see. Because right now, I don't know. But.
Yes. It's wait for the tax.
That's right.
Tax returns on that one.
Right,
yeah.
exactly,
no, I understand.
Right.
Things
so
are, people don't understand how much goes into. I mean, here again, if you treat it like a hobby, it will be a hobby. If you treat it like a business, it's going to be different. And then it just depends on what you're wanting to do with your endeavors. Like if you just want to write a book for your family and friends, or just to say, hey, I wrote a book. Hey, that's great, and that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. But for those of us that are actually wanting to do this full time, it requires a lot. You have to pay the editors. You have to pay. Actually, we need to do that another time too, or another show just on the process, because that's a full time conversation. Okay, so you have how many books you have out now?
Let's see. Published. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. So yeah, 4 are published, and then the next one comes out in March.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
So March.
March 4th. I'm really excited about this one. This one so far is my favorite, but I will say that it's not my favorite of the series, but the ones that are out into the world, this one's my favorite so far.
Yeah. It's so funny, like, it's your favorite until you go back and start reading your other stuff, and you're like, I can't believe I wrote this. Like, it's funny because
exactly.
we're going through the audio files for the book I just put out, and it's funny because you talk about typos and things like that. That's when you really catch your typos, is when you're going through the audio files, when you're going line by line, and you're like, oh my gosh, that's. but then you're like, I forgot writing all about, it's just amazing that, yes, I was there, I wrote it,
yes,
but I don't remember this.
100%, because so, like I said, all the next two books are already written, and so when I was reading through book 4, just to make sure, I realized that I had left a couple of holes that I said, hey, come back to this and fill it in. And so I did, but then I realized this timeline impacts this timeline, and so then I had to move ahead and look in this book, and I thought, ooh, this one might be my favorite book. It's so funny. So anyway, but yes, they're all connected.
Well, and that's another hard thing about series too, is A, continuity, and then B, trying to write it in such a way where someone, if they just picked up that book, you don't. I mean, because there's okay. So right now I'm writing book 2 of the series, Lugeru, and I'm having not problems, but trying to figure out how to explain some things without giving away the first book. But obviously, this is set up from events from the first book. And so I would, if someone said, hey, which book should I start with? I would say definitely book 1, because I was, it builds on it. But for those that pick up book 2, I don't want them to be so far removed because they don't know what's going on that they'll be, leave me a bad review or something like, don't know what's going on, 0.
Yes. Well, and as a reader, I want to be able to, if it is a series, if I accidentally pick up book 3, I want to understand what has happened without all of the details. And so that there is a fine line balance there of how do you do that. I feel like I've done a pretty good job, but I also made notes in my manuscript, and I was like, hey, Miss Editor thing, I need you to tell me, did I give too much away here? Because, she's also a reader, and so she can help me out with that. But yeah, that is a balance issue that I have to go back and be like, oh, I can't tell you that.
Well, and then also the pressure, like there's a pressure with series versus standalones. And I know I've talked about it before, but with the standalone, if the book doesn't do very well, like, well, darn. And then you move on to the next one. With this one, first, okay, so we'll talk about my book in a second. So what else is going on in your stuff? You got your podcast, you got your
So Season 3 of Connected Conversations for Creatives is, like, I'm still pushing out episodes, right? That one will go until, I think, the first week of May, and the last episode will come out. I'm taking May off. I'm not doing any interviews or anything. I've debated going with a live format for Connected Conversations and making it like an evening a week kind of thing. Not editing, because that's my least favorite part, is having to edit the recorded conversations. But it was so convenient to just get them all recorded and be done with it, and not have the weekly, because we had the weekly conversation every week here. And so I don't know what's going to happen. Season 4
you like that format
a lot? Yeah, there's something about you just talk and you let it go. But I don't know. Season 4 is kind of up in the air right now.
Well, the nice thing about it being live is your guest should hopefully be 100% there.
Right. Like, that is so true. Like, they don't have a choice. They're not going to sit there and check their Twitter and answer questions from their political forum.
Right.
Yes. Not that that's ever happened to me, because
we're not
never.
Not naming names, dropping hat, but yes.
Anyway, yes, it was. So I don't know if that's how that's going to work, or not. I don't know. Season 4, again, like I said, it's up in the air. But right now, Season 3 is still pumping out episodes. So, feel free. I've got a really good conversation coming up with the best-selling author Christopher Grayson. The end of the last week of January. I'm pretty excited about that one. I'm excited about all of them, but that one was a good, memorable one that stuck with me.
What does he? What do they do?
He writes young adult fiction, mysteries, that kind of thing. He's just, his wisdom and just his whole vibe is just very laid back. He's older than we are, and just very wise. I love it. So anyway, that's a good conversation that's coming up. But I love it. I'm excited about it. Oh, I'm going to my first writers conference in February.
I'm just so jealous. I mean, I'm happy for you. I have what? yeah. No, it's I endeavor. I say this every year. Like this year, I'm going to be serious and I'm going to go to writing conferences and retreats and blah blah blah. Do I? No, I don't. And but then again, the past couple years have been pretty challenging. So
I was gonna say you have a lot going on, but I will say so. This one it's a very specific. It's for Christian writers, right? My first two books are Christian fiction. And my dad invited me. He's going on a sabbatical, and he's going to this conference. He said, "Hey, do you want to go with me?" And I said, "Absolutely, I do." And I mean, so I get to spend that weekend at a writers conference with my dad. So that'll be kind of cool. That's just an experience that I get to have.
Does he write at all, or?
Well, he's a nonfiction. He writes nonfiction. He's a pastor, and so there's a lot of like devotional writing and that kind of thing. But he's been working on a nonfiction for a hot minute, and so he's going to go check out the conference. And so I'm excited. I don't know if I should say this. I'm actually presenting a book proposal to one of the agents there. I'm pretty excited and nervous about. I've not done that in person before, but so.
Well,
do I know what I'm doing? Absolutely not, but I'm going to do it anyway.
But hey, you're going to take notes and you're going to tell us all about it and hopefully help other people. You're going to come back and say, this is definitely what you not want to do. What you don't want to do. This. Don't ever do this. Yeah. Learn from me. I
have a list of those things. If you have questions, ask. I'll let you know if I can tell you. Don't do
that. Yeah. I know. The author's dilemma. We gather wisdom here.
I'm giving you my dilemmas and letting you know this is not how you handle it.
Yeah, totally.
But other than that, I think that is the end of my catch up on what's going on here. Right. I think, pretty sure. Your turn.
All right. So this is episode 42 or 43 or season 2, episode 1.
There you go. I like that. Right. I like that better.
See, yes. Season 2, episode 1. And that's probably more.
It's a new season. Anyway, it really is. Yeah.
Because things are going to change yearly. Okay. So what's going on in my world? Wow. Let me tell you. So I've been writing for 4.5 years. Started in 2020. And it's been a slog ever since. It's hard. It's challenging. You learn as you go and you get a little bit better and you get a little bit better. And you start gaining wisdom through heartache or whatever. I mean, through the different experiences that you experience in your journey, you do get better at whatever you do. So the book that I released in October, it's not life-changing success, but it is life-changing success for me because it changes. It's definitely changed my future direction. Because I will be honest with you, I think I even told you when we started the podcast last year, when I saw how much money I was spending putting into the business and not how much I was in the black or how much I was ever in the red was pretty alarming.
Yeah.
I mean, because you don't realize how much you spend until you start, divvying it all up and you're like, oh my gosh, I spent, this amount here. I spent this amount here, add it up. Well, I got a pretty good tax break, but, that was a lot of money I spent, not really. And it got to the point where I'm like, man, if something doesn't change, I'm going to have to really consider rethinking what I'm doing. And so that success that I saw in October. And so what I did is I wrote, so before then I was writing standalone paranormal thrillers, kind of like Stephen King, very, standalone. This time I wrote a book to market, quote unquote, because I'm still trying to figure out genres and what to market means for different things. But apparently mine is doing pretty good. Mine hits a certain niche and I have a successful Facebook ad, which is amazing to me because up until then, no matter what I did with Facebook ads, it didn't work. So, it's I wouldn't say it's luck. It's hard work and eventually hitting maybe a little bit of luck. I don't know. But, the planets align and Mars is over. No, I'm kidding, but that's how it feels. But you know, I don't know why this Facebook ad took off versus my other one's not. But it did. And after 4.5 years, so to give people that are listening a little bit of a understanding. So it took me as of November, it took me 4.5 years to hit 100 pages read in Kindle.
Yeah.
Or 1 million pages read.
1 million. Yeah.
Yeah. In Kindle Unlimited. That's not counting, books sold. That's just people reading my books and that service. It took me 4.5 years. In the month of January, I hit 100,000 pages read. And as of yesterday, I hit 100,000 again. Yeah. So it's speeding up. And so it's one of those things where, thank God I wasn't an 8-year overnight success, and I'm not an overnight success now. I mean, but it's one of those, it's starting to gain traction. Right. And I'm having a lot of firsts, I'm having a lot of, pages read in a day, the amount of royalty I'm making in a day, and it's just a really nice, and this is what I was talking to Jennifer earlier about. It's really hard when you start gaining traction because you don't want to be that guy. Like, you don't want to be that obnoxious guy that talks to all your friends that have no care about what you're doing. You don't want to be like, you could be talking about automotive or sport, which I'm not into sports, but you could talk about something completely different. And then you come along and be like, did you know that I hit number 3 on, whatever.
That's right,
and it's like, but even to your author friends, you have to be careful there too, because I've been there, and I will admit, when people come to me and they tell me of their successes, don't get me wrong, I am so happy for them and I want their success, but I'm human and I'm jealous, and I get jealous. And so it's a very fine line as you get success or you gain traction, not to, yes, you could talk about it a little bit, but you don't want to rub people's noses in it.
Right.
There's a finesse to it. And so I'm hoping that, I hope that makes sense.
It does. And I think also, like, it's important when you find those moments where other people have a success that you really want, celebrate it with them, because it becomes so much less about you and more about them. You don't feel as jealous, right? When you can honestly celebrate with somebody else and be like, I am so happy for you and excited for you, because
I wouldn't say jealous, but frustration.
Yeah.
It's like, why is working? What am I doing wrong?
Yes. Right. And I think that's a point where, because we've had this conversation before too, where you can sit there and you can say, why is this working for everyone else but not me? Well, have you actually done anything about it? Right? Have you taken the next step? Have you changed something that wasn't working before? Have you learned from somebody else who is being successful? And so I think that's where you have to change that mindset of, well, don't get frustrated with yourself, celebrate with them, and then say, how did you do that?
you bring up a good point. How many people are honest with themselves when it comes to how they're doing their business?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Which is a whole conversation that we could, that would take.
Yeah. I mean, that's a whole can of worms. No, but it's true though, because, if you're serious, you're going to adapt to get your goal, and the whole goal isn't, I heard it best when it came to goal setting and things that you want in life, right? You don't get those things by wishing it. Those things become apparent in your life as a byproduct of who you become.
Yeah.
Right. So, if you want, to be healthy or whatever, or, have a lot of muscles or a fitness, whatever, you go to the gym, and that goal of having that becomes a byproduct of you doing the daily work.
Yeah.
And then just learning and getting better at it. And the same thing with this too. So
100%. Hey, let me ask you this: with your new book out, do you have a lot of your pages being read for that book, or do you have people hitting your backlog afterward as well?
Yeah. So mainly it is my recent urban fantasy, but some people I'm getting new readers and they are going through my backlog. Not, not a large percentage, but enough, and and I assume, like, once I, start writing book 2 and 3 and all like that, it's, and that's another thing. So I am writing book 2 now, and I'm, still slogging away. I work 50, 60 hours a week, and but I'm still able to maintain 500 words a day, or not 500 words a day, at least a writing sprint a day. And that fluctuates. So I'm grateful that I'm in a position to do that. Thankfully my wife takes care of a lot of things around the house, and she a lot of her sacrifices make this possible. So I'm really grateful there. So, you just do the daily work you put in, and I'm 30,000 words in on it. I'm trying to get up to 100,000. It's going to take me another, 3 months, 4 months.
Yeah.
But it's going to get there. And, so there's that. And then there's the podcast, which we should talk about the podcast because, so folks, obviously for those who have been around for a minute, we had this podcast last year and we did 42 shows in a year.
We did. That's actually kind of a lot.
And we started in like close to February.
Yeah.
So it wasn't like, January 1st, there we go. That's a lot. We did it every week. And when we had conversations, when was it? October. No, it was about the end of October. It was the end of October. Yeah, because it was right before I released my book.
Yeah.
We had some things come up. The price of production went up, and then we just had a lot going on in our lives. Yeah, life punched us in the face, and that's okay. But so we decided to put it on hiatus. We had we had some different ideas about how to run the thing, and that's cool too. We all came together. We talked about it. And and at first I was frustrated that it didn't work, but in retrospect, I'm glad it went the way it did, because let's talk about distractions.
Oh, yeah.
When you start writing and you start putting yourself out there for the public, you will find anything and everything to distract you from doing that.
Yep.
And so for me, the podcast was my distraction. It kept me from writing. It kept me from progressing in my writing, authoring. And I find myself even now, even with my day job, different opportunities come up, and I'm like, oh, that'd be so cool. And I start daydreaming. And then I'm like, what are you doing, Josh?
Yeah.
It's like, that's distracting you from your main goal. And your main goal is you should be writing more books. And because let's face it, writing is a very lonely experience. It's a frustrating experience. I mean, but it's also, and here again, for those of you that have not written, please don't take that as a, oh man, that's horrible. Yeah, it's not a discouragement. No, it's not a discouragement, because if I can do it, you really can. If I can do it, anybody can. Yeah. No, but it is true in the fact that it's tough to sit, because you're playing mind games with yourself. Yeah. And every time you sit in the hot seat, you're thinking, do I have it today? Yeah. Do I got it today? Mm-hmm. Whether you outline or whether you're like me and you write by the seat of your pants. Every time I sit here, there's always, now granted, I've written 5 books by now. Mm-hmm. Actually, I've written about 7, but I haven't released those 2 because anyway, but I know it's there, but there's always that little bit like, well, what if it's not?
Right.
And I think everybody has that. So,
for sure.
So anyway, when we took a hiatus, I'm kind of glad that happened. I'm glad that it went the way it did. And then we started talking again. And also I heard from you guys. There's a couple of people that emailed us. Mm-hmm. There was a couple of people that talked to me, and they're like, man, what happened? Blah, blah, blah. Or, hey, man, I really love the show. Which is surprising to me, because I was telling Jen earlier, it's one of those things where as you grow, you don't see yourself grow. Right.
Right.
Like, I've been on this earth 46 years, and I've never seen myself grow until I see an old picture of myself, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so, I've changed so much.
Yeah.
And, and that's the thing with, a podcast or something you do daily that you don't realize how much reach or how much it has grown until people start showing you the mirror or an old,
Right.
or what you've actually done. And so for you, for those of you that did reach out and let us know, hey, thanks, or I really appreciate it, because it did show me that I think this podcast is important in the fact that, I mean, not in an arrogant way, because I'm certainly not here to share, like what I'm, but I think it is important to show that, hey, this is doable. These are the pitfalls, but there's also some good things about it too, because let me tell you something. Yes, I have talked to you about the frustrations of it, but there is nothing like holding a couple of your books in hand and being like, wow, this is something that I'm leaving behind. And no matter what happens to me, these characters are living in someone else's brain or mind, and that's pretty cool. That's
for sure.
That's a unique experience. So.
Oh yeah. Well, and I think that we have this opportunity here on this platform to walk alongside one another, as authors, like the group of us who do talk sometimes, but also as those who just pipe in every now and then who have questions or comments. Like, we're here to support one another, not just to entertain you, which I know we are the funniest people you will meet on any platform. We're very proud of that. But at the same time, we're also a support group that we're here to say, if we can do it, you can do it. And we're here with you to do it alongside of you. So, so I'm glad we're back too, even though it does look a little bit different, and it might feel a little bit different at first, but
yeah, no, and it's going to be. But the thing is, so why did we move it to Sunday? Well, first off, yeah. Why did we move it? Well, we moved it to the weekends because during the week it's just really hard to do. With everybody working day jobs, at least for me, I just couldn't do it. And then also we're going to do these shows once a month or maybe twice, depending on how things
availability.
Availability, because like I said, this podcast is a luxury for us.
Yeah.
It's not paying the bills. And that's, and here again, it never was. We never started with the intention to, but our main focus is our writing, and we have to write, and we have to focus on our authoring. Otherwise, the whole point of this podcast is worthless.
That's true.
And so, we decided to dial it back to once, maybe twice a month, and do it on the weekends. And so, and that's what we're doing. And there's something else I was going to say, but I can't remember at the moment. And that's okay. Yeah. I like creating that intrigue.
Yes. He'll think of it and just stop whatever we're doing at the point, and he'll let us know when he remembers.
Yeah.
It'll be fine.
Yeah.
No, that's true though. And life really was like, just being on a Thursday night, like we were saying earlier before we started, was by the time you get to Thursday, you're mentally wiped. Like I was already brain dead, and I still had another day to get through,
Right.
And so that was just one of those things, that moving it to a Sunday afternoon. And it's still recorded. It's not like, you're going to miss anything if you can't watch it live, but
yeah, exactly. And then also kind of gives us time to prepare, because there was times.
Oh man, two wheels.
Yeah. I mean, the hamster was not running in my head, because the hamster already ran the marathon and it was tired.
Yeah.
So at least now it kind of gives us a time to, at least prepare and move forward. Oh, we didn't get to the news today.
We have a minute if you want to talk news. There's plenty of it.
Well, and we could talk about TikTok.
Listen,
TikTok's gone, and now it's back.
And now it's back. When I tell you the number of people who, this is actually a really good point, and not to make light, I know that some people did lose income and that kind of thing when it shut down for all 12 hours that it shut down or whatever. But I will say, that should be a huge warning sign to any of you who are trying to build a community of readers. You have to diversify, and you have to have a newsletter. I'm sorry, but you have to, because that is the only way that you can hit mass engagement in such a short amount of time when things like that happen, because you're not guaranteed. Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, Lemonade, Blue Sky, all Threads. What else am I missing? Like all of these things are not guaranteed to be here tomorrow. The company could go under, for that matter, not even a government overreach, but
Yeah, I mean, and honestly, even going back to your ads or whatever, your Facebook ads could get suspended, or your ad account or whatever. So, you
been
really
there, haven't you?
Yeah, I've been there. Yeah. For the weirdest reasons too.
Yeah.
So yeah, you got to look at other options. If you try to build, it's like building a stool with one leg.
Yeah.
You could balance, and you might balance for a little bit, but
you're going to get tired for one, and somebody,
Yeah.
So, and that's one of those things. I was thinking about it yesterday when we were kind of talking about what we were going to talk about, and TikTok was kind of at the forefront of my mind. And I was like, we used to have home phones and cell phones, so there was always a way to get in touch with people. But then, like, we only have cell phones, and so if something were to happen, there's no getting communications to anybody aside from maybe email, if that's working. I don't know. So there's no home phone, just cell phone. So you can't just rely on one source of communication. And that's true. If you're building a community, you want people to be able to find you wherever you are, however you are. So you need to make sure that your newsletter is going out at least once a month. So get your newsletter.
Well, no, but I will say this. I will say this though, and you're right. I should. But I have found that if you find a successful ad, or if you get to the point where you're actually getting traction, you need to have a public locate, like Facebook page or something, or Instagram or something, where people can follow up and all like that. And if you have a like an email catcher, or like, oh shoot, what's that? I can't think of the word.
The reader magnet.
Yeah, reader magnet.
Like, yeah.
Golly, sometimes words just don't appear.
Yeah.
Especially when I'm writing.
Yes.
Yeah, but like, reader magnets to catch emails and stuff like that. And I'm doing that to, so when I do release, I can just say, hey, this is ready. But I have found that, like with the release of my last book, I'm not worrying so much about, I'm not really worrying about TikTok or Instagram or anything of that. Now I am pretty engaged on my Facebook page.
That's the thing, the engagement. What if Facebook goes away though? How else will you engage your readers? That's the thing. You have to have ways to do that. Yeah.
I'm totally hosed if that happens. But
right. So, and it's hard because I like Facebook. That probably ages me, but I like Facebook for community building because it's easier to make smaller groups of a big group kind of thing. I do not care for Threads. I've tried. I'm still trying. I don't like
get it. I've tried it. I have an account. I mean,
but I also don't like X, and I've never loved Twitter. Now X, that's not for me, and so that's not really community building for me. It's a little different. So,
right, and then it's also the time to, like, you really need to pick one or two and focus on those, and then hope to God that something doesn't happen to them. I mean, let's face it, trying to juggle your writing, your day job, your family, your whatever, everything else, you just don't have the luxury unless you just, and then also, you got to work. I'm bad about this on Facebook, is like, I'll get on there to look at something and then I'll doom scroll. Yep.
That's it.
And that's time I could have spent elsewhere. Now it's, no matter what, whenever you write a book and you put it out, you are going to check your stats every 15 minutes.
Nonstop.
And that's okay. It's annoying.
But stop.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to annoy yourself doing it, but you're going to do it.
Yep.
And if you tell me you don't, you're a liar.
True story.
Yeah. Because I find myself doing that quite a bit too. Like I'll check the stats and I'll check and see if I have any new comments or new reviews. And it's just so funny.
I do it once a day. I do it in the mornings, and then I don't look at it again the rest of the day. Like I can make but it's every day, every morning. That's how I start. And it's like, that's probably not the best way to start a day, but that's what I do.
Well, the hardest thing I have is, like, I'm always looking for, especially with the new book out.
Right.
I'm always looking at the book level and the category, because for me, once I hit a certain level, well, that's free marketing, because I can take a screenshot of it and put it out there. So I'm constantly like, okay, am I at this, I haven't got a number 1 yet, but I did get a number 2, and I was happy. And honestly, that's the first I've never been that low in anything on anything I've written before. So that was, awesome. That was pretty
fantastic.
No, I mean, it really was. I mean, no, I know. Here again. Hey. What are y'all talking about? Here, did you know that,
but it's not bragging. It's true.
Right.
That is something that we all strive for. That's what we want. And to know somebody, be like, hey, I'm friends with that author who had, she's on the top 100. Why not? Do you use there's an extension from Kindlepreneur called Writer Watch. Do you use that on your?
I have it, but I don't know if there's a glitch on it, or maybe my.
You need to uninstall it and reinstall it because they updated it and changed it, and so it gives you your constant stats of if your book is up, down, new reviews, that kind of thing.
No, like when it first came out, it worked like a charm, and it was fantastic.
And then it glitched.
Yeah, lately it's just like that's been so I've been on my phone a lot, changing it up. So yeah. But okay. Anything else going on in the world?
In the world.
Well, there's a lot going on in the world, but in the writing world. Oh my gosh. So just goes, and here again, I don't want to get into the whole weeds, but be careful of your heroes.
Whoo. Uh-huh. Yep. Be careful of your heroes.
Because they might have issues.
They might have some skeletons in their closets.
Yes.
Active and otherwise. Yep. Yes. You're right. Yeah, no, we don't have to go into those weeds, but yes, you are absolutely correct.
Yeah, I was like, yeah. Mm-hmm. But now I feel like we have to. No, well, I mean, if anybody's been following any of the sci-fi authors lately, man, I probably don't even have to say it because you probably already know about it. Yeah. There was a pretty famous author, big Hugo Award winner that his skeletons came to light, and he's not as good as we thought, and that's all I'm going to say. And that's unfortunate because I thought a lot of him. But hey, that's
and that's so hard because I know in the past we've talked about how do you separate the art from the artist? Can you separate the art from the artist, right? Because his books are good, but at the same time, once you know something, you're at a point where it's like, well, now you have to make a choice.
Yeah. No, I mean, I still like the book he wrote,
right?
But I probably won't buy another book,
right,
from him.
Exactly.
So there's that. So just be careful.
Yes. Don't do gooder.
No, don't. Yeah. Be good. Don't be evil.
That's right. Don't be gross either.
Well, I think the problem is people start believing their own hype.
Seriously.
And then and then they think they do no wrong, and then they screw people over, and then obviously people call them on it, and it's like that was wrong, and you're like, oh wow. So there's that.
Just don't be stupid.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh, I was also going to say that book talk, or not book talk, but just the book world in general on social media has become very political. Stop it. Can I just ask, please stop? Like, there were literally several people on Threads last week who said that if you used a red heart in your posts, they would immediately block you. But if you used a blue one, they wouldn't. And I thought, now I have to decide what color heart to use.
You know what? People like that, go ahead and block me. Seriously, because
I was just like, what are we doing?
Because they're always going to find something. People that are always looking for problems will find them.
You're right. But I'm just like, why are we like this? We want to be so open-minded and so accepting, but
usually I find it that the people that usually tout that are usually that's probably another conversation, but usually I find that people that are the most non-tolerant are the people that spout being tolerant. So I don't know.
Sure. I don't know either, but I was just like, man, so be careful.
This goes back to being honest to yourself about who you are and what you stand for. Do you really believe what you're saying, or are you just buying into the hype?
And the block button works both ways.
It's true. That's true. And I have used it a couple times. So unfortunately, it's a shame. Yeah. Well, we'll see what happens. So moving forward, I think, like I said, we're going to do these shows once a month. It's Jen and I, and maybe a guest host or a guest speaker at some point. But if you have any topics you would like to discuss, or you would like for us to go over, gloss, or news or whatever, be sure to reach out. You can reach out to us at I can't even think, authorsdilemma@gmail.com. Or you can contact us through Facebook. Yeah, and hit that like post if you hear this on Spotify or wherever you're listening to this from, and share with your friends. And I hope you get something out of it.
Hope so.
And I guess that's it.
We made it.
We made it. We made it. So happy 2025 to everyone. Happy New Year, and please stay warm the next coming week because it is supposed to be freezing pretty much all over the place. It's supposed to be snowing in New Orleans next.
In Alabama. Woo-hoo.
Yeah. So, which I'm kind of glad because it's like, well, if it's gonna be miserable, I want to see snow.
Well, we had it last week. Shut everything down, and it was not worth it. Like,
well, yeah, they're gonna have to shut down everything. I mean, people can't drive.
We're not built for that.
People can't drive when it's sunny out. So I could just imagine when it's nasty. So we'll see what happens. Yes. Anyway, right. Hey, all you beautiful people, thank you for spending your time with us. We will see you next month on a Sunday. We haven't figured it out yet, but we will. And we'll let you know. Be sure to follow us on Facebook to keep up with the updates. And we'll see you next time. God bless.
Bye.